I've been an avid hunter of spook trees since 2018. In fact, the image you see on screen is my first ever recorded spook tree. These mysterious trees, first introduced in October of 2015, have become one of LT2's most notable additions, compelling hundreds if not thousands of players to begin the hunt every year. So in this 5th edition of my spook hunting guide series, it's time to show you how to hunt spook trees and everything else you need to know about them. Since last year, we now know a ton more about spook spawning, and a lot of it has also changed. So simplest way to explain how it works is just going down the order of events that the server checks when spawning a spook tree. First of all, no spooks can spawn before October 1st at 6 AM East. Last year we had a spook that actually spawned in September 30th, but this was likely due to an exploit that allowed the server to change to end times. I'll talk more about that later. In order for a server to actually spawn a spook tree, that server needs to be at least 17 hours old. This is the spawn interval, also known as the time between spooks start growing. This means that if you have a spook that grows and then dies, the server will have to wait another 17 hours before spawning another one. However, this interval is thrown completely out of the window starting at the End Times event, which begins on October 31st, Halloween at 6 AM EST, similarly to how spook spawning begins. As of 2021, the End Times event has been totally changed, with up to 3 trees being able to spawn at once, similarly to how it worked in 2015. The spawn interval for these trees is anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, as we do not have exact information on this yet. Just a refresher, before the End Times event, all fog thickens, along with trees losing their leaves depending on if they're spook or not. The End Times axe is also available during this time by doing the same thing as the Rookery axe, but on Halloween. The second conversion to leave End Times occurs at 6 AM East on the 1st of November, however you can still find remnant trees that are still alive after this period. Anyways, let's get back to talking about how spook trees spawn. The first thing to talk about is the spook versus sinister spawn rates. If you didn't know, sinister trees are a variant of spook tree that are 100 times rare, and have a neon inside and a granite textured outside. Finding a sinister tree is one of the rarest achievements you can get in Lumber Tycoon 2. Both trees can spawn on any part named slate, road, or ground, or basically any rock, road, or grass in any biome. As of a few months ago, the Safari Road was actually changed to have the name Road instead of Reed, meaning you can actually get spook trees to spawn on the road this year. Spook trees also require raycast to spawn. The raycast checks from the location of the tree up until the raycast ceiling, which is 100 studs higher than the volcano, to see if that area is unobstructed. If it is, then spook tree can spawn there. Now let's talk about ways you can classify your tree. Every spook and sinister tree has a certain amount of segments and branches. A segment is a section of the tree which only has one branch or other segment coming out of it. And as touched on before, a branch is just how many sections the segment splits off into. For example, this tree has 3 segments and 3 branches, while this tree only has 2 segments and 2 branches. A tree can only naturally have 5 segments and 3 branches. However, 5 segments and 1 segment trees are the rarest, with 2 branches being slightly rarer than 3 branches. Now that we have discussed all the logical aspects of spook spawning, it's time to get into the more interpretable ones. Over the years, the community has came up with several different terms for describing a tree's growth. The most common type is an elder. An elder tree is basically a tree that is fully grown and has very thin branches at the end. These are often referred to as elder branches. A monster is similar to an elder, however it is massive. These trees are huge and usually have 1 segment with 3 branches. Next up we have a stump, and a stump is basically a tree that only has segments until it hits a wall and stops growing. From there it will just get thicker and thicker until it looks really funny. A super stump is similar to a stump except it only has 1 segment, with the second segment being the one that gets stumped. An obstruction is a tree that grows partially into a wall, building, or anything other than where it's meant to be. This happens when a tree spawns way too close to a rock and thus thickens into it. Next up we have a sudden sapling. This is when you spot a sapling immediately growing into the world from nothing. You'll need video evidence in order to prove this to all of your friends. Last but not least is a private server tree, and this is basically just a tree that you grow in your private server by keeping it open for long amounts of time. Next up we have some locations that are considered rare by the community. First off we have a Palm Island spook, and this is just any tree that spawns on a palm island. Next there's a Safari Circle, which is this area in between boxcars and fancy furnishings. The cherry meadow is also a very rare place for a tree to spawn, as the tree must spawn on the grass here to actually be considered part of the cherry meadow. The Take a Peek is a rare and cool location for a spook to spawn. These trees are usually pretty easy to see, and sometimes you can even see them from spawn. A tree spawning on the volcano is a highly sought after prize for most spook hunters, as these trees usually look very cool. There are 3 types of volcano trees: the rim, the grass, and the path. Last and one of the most rarest ones is the maze ledge. This small rock hanging under the maze used to be not as rare as it is today, as you could easily get there with glitches. And now for the 2 locations that used to be rare last year. First up, we got the Safari Points. These 2 peninsulas sticking over the ocean were very small and very sought after locations. However, during the past 2 months, the Safari Points got bordered up by rocks, making the map a lot more cleaner, but also losing 2 beloved spook spawning locations. Next is the Safari Road, and as previously mentioned, Safari Road used to not be able to spawn spook trees as it was called reed, meaning that the only way to get one on there was to have it obstruct into the road. And now your brain is overloaded with information about spook, and since they're spawning, it's time to get into how to actually hunt it. Hunting has not changed much since last year, so I'll be reusing the methods mentioned in last year's guide. To start, you're going to want to reset your character so you respawn in the exact center of your base. From here, take a smooth wall blueprint and place it right behind you. Now you'll be towering up using 100 smooth walls. Now your hunting base is complete, it's time to learn how to join servers with the most efficiency. Roblox has pushed several small changes to how servers work. Now there's a cool little button here that says exclude full servers. You're going to want to make sure that's checked. Now scroll down and join any of the 5 out of 6 player servers you come across. Once you load into the server, you're simply going to want to press this load button, then go to the slot where you built your hunting base. Simply load it up and try to place your slot in one of these 5 locations, as they'll be the best for spook hunting. Once your base is loaded, I recommend panning your camera over to Safari and simply looking across the map, keeping your eye at the right edge of your screen. This red line is where I look when hunting, however you can look anywhere on the screen as long as it suits you best. Once you panned around the whole map, I recommend looking down to the mainland. And just like that, you fully hunted a server. Now leave that game and rejoin another one to continue hunting. As previously mentioned, the end times event, everything gets really foggy, so you're gonna have to drive around the map or just look from a lower vantage point. Anyways, now let's get to the things that actually have changed since last year, and that's retrieving your tree. See, last year you were able to simply wall climb up any wall to get to your tree really fast, however that has been since patched, which means we have to go through some other methods. The first and easiest method in my opinion is the sled flying glitch, and this was actually a glitch that existed back in 2019 that was rediscovered by I Have No Logic. All you need for this glitch is one toboggan and one sign. Simply hold the sign from the base and use Q and E rotation to flip it upside down. Then place it in the middle compartment of the toboggan like so. Now you want to sit down on the toboggan so that the sign glitches into it. Next, quickly reload your base and it should work. Now let's suppose that you found a spook tree. Simply throw a toboggan in your truck and drive your truck as far as it goes. Then take the toboggan out of the truck, sit down in it and hold the sign. You should start to fly. Simply maneuver to the rock where your spook is located and then chop it down. Now for the second and more known method, which is simply long planking. If you don't know what long planking is, basically you just cut down a massive tree, usually an elm tree, take its trunk, sawmill it, and then use it to quickly get up to certain ledges. It should be noted that at the time of recording this video, there is a glitch that breaks long planks in which you cannot grab them from the very ends. I am hoping that this glitch will be fixed by October 1st, but if it's not, I'll let you know in the description of this video. And that's going to be the end of the 5th annual hunting guide. Again, if anything changes from now till October 1st, it'll all be put down in the description, and I hope to see you all hunting this year. This is it for me. Goodbye.